Hey, everybody. All right, let's get that contingent on the end down there. Y'all settle down, settle down.
Them together.
I know.
You know they're trouble.
I know they are. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. We lack a quorum, but we're going to plow through this lengthy agenda anyway. So we'll call the meeting to order unofficially, and we'll come back and pick up the minutes once the quorum gets here. But is there anyone in the public that wishes to address the board at this time? I don't hear anybody speaking up, so I'm going to go to Smyrna Mayor Reed to introduce your proxy, your guest.
Absolutely. So I have a very special guest with me here today, Eileen Fajardo, and she actually bid on being mayor for a day. And just before you even asked, she was not the only bidder.
I can ask, which city did she bid on?
And so I am so excited to have her, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her.
Okay. I'm Eileen Fajardo. I'm a senior at Smyrna High School. Having fun.
And she's really big with the band and in Boy Scouts. And so we've learned a lot about each other on the way down. She's not going to discuss my driving, right?
Sure.
Okay. But we are so glad to have her with us today. And I was just excited that she wanted to see what government was like and what the mayor does. And so it's been a crazy morning. So she got a true picture of what being a mayor is really about. So I was so glad to bring her to meet so many of my wonderful friends and to see what we do as a region here in Middle Tennessee. So thanks for having us.
Welcome, Mayor Fajardo. Okay, let's, we also want to recognize Houston County Mayor Brake. Welcome, sir. We're glad you're here. And to Mayor Moore, we're glad you're here as well. So your feelings.
I just want to know, did you bid more than $1?
Hey, I have not asked that because I don't want to know how much she bid.
Yes.
Is it a fundraiser?
Yes, for the, I think, book club or the library.
Did the mayor really pay you?
Don't tell them.
This is a friendly group, I promise.
That's
you.
right. That's right.
Despite what you've heard so far. It's a friendly group. All right, we have one information item, the Regional Disaster Recovery Program kickoff. Mr. Skipper, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. We, I think the chair is being.
Point of order. I think we need to do minutes if that's, we don't have an action item. Point of order, Candy. Remember that we don't have a quorum. I withdraw my statement.
Our general counsel.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter, I want to welcome you to the meeting as well. Thank you for being here for Nolensville. Good to see you. The only informational item we have this morning in an otherwise short agenda, I think the chair is being sarcastic or just trying not to jinx it. Probably more likely the case is regional. I alluded to this at our October meeting when I talked about the brownfields grant that GNRC was awarded by TDEC to help inventory potential redevelopment sites across Middle Tennessee. Today, we're bringing to you another program kickoff. This is also being awarded by a competitive grant that we applied for a couple of years ago, immediately following the devastating floods in Humphreys County and Waverly. Anytime there's a disaster declaration, we call it a silver lining. It's kind of silly given the devastation that occurred, but one of the silver linings is it does make us eligible for additional funding to invest in our communities, in this case, to help build resiliency against future disasters and events that may come our way. And so this is a grant application that we put in immediately following that event to bring resources to the region to help those local communities with their long-term recovery efforts. And so obviously a lot of folks are interested in getting engaged right after an event to help with the short-term recovery. And so what these resources that I'll talk about today will do is help these communities plan for their future in a way that makes them less susceptible to extreme weather events in the future. So what to know about this? This is a $392,000 grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration made available through an appropriation through the disaster supplemental. Followed the floods. The grant is intended to be seed money, and so the federal government's interested in helping us stand up a long-term disaster recovery program. They're going to fund us for 2 years, and during that effort, we'll try to figure out a way to keep it around past that. We've had conversations over the last few years with the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and some other foundations, other grantors to help us identify funding to keep it going. But it will be our goal to keep this going after the 2-year grant runs its course. The disaster recovery program is, as we proposed it to EDA, is seeking to achieve a couple of outcomes. One is to build the necessary capacity to deliver day-to-day ground level work, additional capacity to those local governments to support the long-term recovery of the affected communities, and to prepare those communities for future events and disasters by ensuring that codes and policies and ordinances, regulations that shape where growth is happening, how it's happening, and where the infrastructure is going to be to support that is just more resilient to future events. So those are the 2 outcomes we're trying to achieve. 3 deliverables will be funded through this effort. The first is an outreach and coordination plan. The purpose of this is to work with you all locally to identify partners that can be engaged in the recovery efforts over the long term, the stakeholders who can help shape what those efforts look like, and then ultimately strategies to engage those who are most impacted by the disaster, whether it be residents, businesses, and environmental stewards of the community. So we'll develop that plan. This is really the first sprint we'll do out of the gates. The most significant piece here is the deliverables around technical assistance. So this is going to be funding to augment funding we get from other sources that helps us provide local planning assistance to communities already. So some of you take advantage of that. Assistance with managing your comprehensive plans, which include your land use policy, your zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations. So this is additional support to help our staff be in your community a little bit more, but with the mindset of helping to make decisions around sustainability and resiliency to extreme weather events. We'll also have some resources to provide even more technical assistance to you in the way of grant writing as we look to find funding to improve your infrastructure, particularly in a way that makes it more resilient. So it's just more boots on the ground from the regional council to help you think about resiliency in your long-term recovery efforts. And then finally, we want to make sure that there is an evergreen deliverable that can stick around to help our community self-assess for resiliency, to find those vulnerabilities. And so we're always thinking about, as there are opportunities to improve our community, how to do it in a way that minimizes the potential harm posed by future disasters. Technical assistance services, I've talked a little bit about this already. I don't want to dwell here, but wanted to put the information in the slides for those who are joining us online or will review the material who couldn't be with us today. But again, it's the helping to identify those affected, make sure that they have a voice in long-term recovery efforts, providing the local planning assistance, and doing research and grant writing to position your community for additional investments from state and federal and foundation grants. Our approach is a 5-step process here over the next 2 years. First is capacity building. So we're looking internally to figure out what do we already have on staff that can contribute to this process through their day-to-day, what may we need to add to our group to support the work, what kind of capacity can we identify within your communities to be part of the process. Then we'll get into the local outreach. This is, again, talking to the people who are involved in the recovery efforts, but also those most affected to make sure that policy changes and infrastructure improvements are made in a way that's mutually beneficial to their daily lives. The technical assistance would be step 3, and then we get into the toolkit development. This is that evergreen document that will help you self-assess, your resiliency, and just be a constant at your disposal, constant list of resources as you pursue improvements in your community. Then we'll get into project closeout. This will help us meet our federal requirements for the reporting, but also be really where we're really focused on making sure we can continue this after the 2-year period elapses. So with that, how we will get started is just along the same lines as the Brownfield Grant Program that I talked about in October. We will be looking for you to identify a point of contact in your community. We are going to be most immediately focused on any of the communities that have been subject to a disaster declaration over the last couple of years, and there have been a couple since the Waverly flood. And then we will broaden that out across the region because we all need to be prepared for disasters, but we'll need a local point of contact. This would be a subject matter expert or somebody you already have assigned to work on topics like this. And then we'll also want your local knowledge of those affected and those who could help with the recovery efforts. And then just any information or deliverables, materials that you've created along the way that relate to this topic so that we can make sure we're not duplicating efforts and that we're amplifying the good work that is already being done locally around these issues. So, Mr. Chair, that is some information about this new program that we will get started early in 2025. Again, first step is to talk to you individually about who you want engaged from your teams.
Okay, questions for Michael? There.
Michael, for this, is there a retroactive component or is it all forward looking? We just had the 1-year anniversary of last year's tornado that hit Madison hard. And I know we have had some, not anything as profound as the 2010 flood, but periodic flooding. Does any of this apply to recent disasters or is it all from moment of?
Yeah, great question. This is both retroactive. It's retroactive in the sense that it's before today, right? Before the award, but we applied based on the flood in Waverly and that declaration. And there have been a few since then. So all of those will define the communities that we're most intently focused on at the beginning. But everybody around the table, the communities across all 13 counties should be interested in that sort of long-term disaster recovery toolkit to prepare against future events.
All right, I think that covers. I think your how to engage answered all the rest of my questions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move into the action item, even though for our attorney, we don't have a quorum. Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, as we've all been in this situation before, we can move forward. I think we should with the presentation unless Michael has a different idea. I think I would rather be in the position of letting the EDA know that it was presented, even if we didn't get action. Was that your thought?
Yeah, I think so. And I'd also like an informal vote of endorsement so that we can take that endorsement to either the next meeting of this body or the board of directors for GNRC, whichever meeting should occur first. I think that's what we did last year as well when we were in a similar situation. I think the last time we didn't have a quorum. But must be something about this topic. It's the SEDS, right? It sounds like a disease, as Angie Hubbard used to say. Stay away from the SEDS.
Stay away from that. But actually, we need to review it. So, Michael, if you wouldn't mind, review that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the purpose of the annual updates, as they're required of us by the Economic Development Administration, is to essentially have this annual review of the requirements so everybody's aware, but also an annual review of the 5-year action plan that should be guiding our work as an organization and our work with economic development partners as we pursue job creation, retention across Middle Tennessee. So a lot of these slides is a reminder, and I apologize for those of you who have memorized these by now. You all have personal devices. You can get caught up on emails if that is the case. But I do want to remind you that we carry really important federal designation from the Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration. We are the designated economic development district for Northern Middle Tennessee. That is a federal designation that's very similar to our federal designation as at least 7 of our counties as the Nashville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the 13 counties that compose the Area Agency on Aging and Disability. And the purpose of these designations is recognition by the federal government that this is the body that convenes to formulate strategies to help implement federal objectives from the department that is funding whatever initiative that is underway. In the case of Department of Commerce and the EDA, they're interested in making sure that any federal investments in infrastructure could be regional infrastructure, but it could be site development infrastructure that's associated with job creation or job retention locally or of regional impact, that any investments from them are consistent with your shared vision for economic development and how public policies are aligned with the planned investments of the private sector. So that's our role, is to convene these conversations, make sure our investments that we're making in infrastructure support economic development goals of the region, and make sure that they can validate that their investments are not undermining the things that we're trying to accomplish as a region. I'm not going to probably get too much into this, but the EDA was essentially created in 1965, about the same time that the NPO requirements and the AAAD requirements on the aging side were all being created by the Congress. Basically, it was a moment in our history where Congress decided, you know what, we need to get local governments more involved in the decision making and not just rest on state policies to invest in local communities. And so the requirements here date back to 1965. And really are intended to guide EDA's initiatives around investments in local community. The SEDS requirement, it stands for Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. I don't want to mislead people into thinking like GNRC is responsible for determining what our economic development strategy is. So we're not the experts in that space. We're a member of that group. But the business representatives from each of your counties who serve on this council and their partners at chambers of commerce and partners in the private sector really are the ones that have a vision for how we should be growing our economy. Our goal is to convene those folks across political jurisdictions, give them an audience with you all who are shaping, on the public sector side, who are shaping policies for where infrastructure is going to go. You know, we don't want a situation where we've got a planned highway investment over here and a new headquarters or manufacturing facility being built here that needs a roadway improvement. So the more we can align our infrastructure plans with our plans for economic development, the less we'll be robbing Peter to pay Paul when it comes to these projects. So, our requirement is to update the strategy do a major update of the strategy every 5 years. Our current strategy spans the years 2022 through 2026. And then annually required to review it with you all. And I'll talk a little bit about what goes into that. Why you should care, you've seen this slide before, but the bottom line is what we're looking to do is increase our competitiveness for state and federal grant opportunities. And the more that we can demonstrate we're on the same page and we have a strategic plan for how we're going to use somebody else's money to improve our community and our region, the more competitive we're going to be. The required components of a SEDS document include an economic profile, analysis of strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats for our region as it relates to economic development, goals and objectives, things that we're trying to accomplish through our investments in job creation and retention, and then actions and performance measures, so things that we know we want to work on together and a way to track our progress towards those goals. The adopted strategy, like I mentioned, spans the years 22 through 2026. So we are approaching the need to do a major update to reset that 5-year horizon. But the current strategy includes regional growth projections, which are sourced from the same forecast that we use for transportation planning, our work around environmental quality, our projections of demographic, socioeconomic information that shapes our priorities for social services that we help fund across Middle Tennessee. It includes a profile of economic and market trends that are largely defined by those experts across the region, the summary of the SWOT analysis that was carried out by those professionals as well as stakeholders from all kinds of sectors, multi-sectoral, intergovernmental sort of representation into that SWOT analysis. And then the action plan itself, 4 guiding principles. I'll talk about those. I'll talk about the 4 strategic goals. And then there are 48 proposed actions that align to one of those goals. And then 16 priority actions, though, which are intended to be our primary focus over the next 5 years or this 5-year period. And there's implementation guidance on how we should go about our work together to take those actions, and the performance measures to track our progress. This is just a reminder that for the major updates, there's a lot of input from stakeholders around the table, from all walks of life, from all sectors of the economy, and from resource agencies and infrastructure planning groups, just to make sure we're all aligned. The guiding principles that came from that process were to be equitable, to be resilient, to be innovative, and to be sustainable in our approach to economic development. I'm going to go through the text here, but it's all online in the document, and this is a refresher anyway. The 4 strategic goals of the economic development strategies are to be prepared and aligned, so to be ready with each other, to be on the same page and be ready to go if an opportunity is presented to the region. To be invested and competitive means we've always got skin in the game and a commitment to each other, and that we're doing the things necessary to be competitive for the funding from other entities. To be coordinated and connected in our movements to implement the action plan is a goal, and to be vibrant and livable. In the end, what we're trying to do is create a community that people want to live in, that businesses want to thrive in, and in the end, that is what makes us the most competitive possible for a successful economy, is to be a place that people want to be and people want to invest. Each of these goals have between 3 and 6 proposed actions across them, and then again, we identify which of those and our priorities over the next during the 5-year period in the document. So to the annual update, our requirement here is to track the indicators of economic success. These are measures like the unemployment rate, labor participation, GDP, the things that you associate with tracking economic success. That we continue to assess the action plan that was proposed. Is it still, have we shifted in terms of strengths or weaknesses, opportunities or threats? Are there new issues that we didn't consider a couple of years ago that we need to maybe come up with an action item around, or are there things that are no longer relevant? So this is what we do each year, is just kind of assess that action plan. And then we also document our achievements towards implementing those goals. We also, this is sort of an ongoing assessment, to be honest with you, in the conversations that we have day to day with our partners. But we do a formal questionnaire among the group each year, just to make sure they have an opportunity. It's always available online for anybody who wants to take it. Just if you have a random thought about a direction we ought to be going, you can just drop that into the survey anytime you want. So that's just always an ongoing outreach activity that we have. In terms of recent accomplishments since we adopted the SEDS, here are 3 accomplishments that we shared with you last year. Many of these are still relevant because they're ongoing, they're underway and ongoing. But we talked last year about we've expanded our lending capacity to support economic development projects for deals that aren't otherwise capable of getting a bank loan, right? It's gap financing. They may get a portion of their deal financed through a bank loan. They need a little bit additional funding to make the deal work. And so we have about $2 million of defederalized money and from our legacy revolving loan fund that where we have a lot of flexibility in how we use that money. We've got about $1 million cash on hand from the revolving loan fund that was capitalized from contributions from EDA through the CARES Act. And then we recently, and you'll remember this, you took action around this, we applied for an additional grant from the EDA to capitalize a new RLF that's got lending capacity about $2.5 million. So all told, about $5-6 million of capital available to invest in economic development deals across Middle Tennessee that are struggling to otherwise get fully financed. We talked about the long-term disaster recovery grant. We talked about this last year as an accomplishment because we had notice of intent to award us. We finally got the paperwork from EDA, and we're going to get this disaster recovery program launched. But that is very much in line with our economic development strategy to make sure we're building sustainable and resilient communities to support investments from the private sector into job creation and retention. And then this is also an ongoing effort. This third pillar here is just the work that we do every single day to assist you in getting grant money. So again, the grant writing that we're doing, with you. And then if you need somebody to manage the project for that grant, that's what we do. And right now we're managing about $50 million worth of work across Middle Tennessee on your behalf from CDBG funds, American Rescue Act Plan funds, infrastructure planning grant funds. Really important work there that our ECD team is doing. 3 new accomplishments that I wanted to share with you this year that relate to the SEDS implementation is that we've built internal capacity to do economic impact modeling. We have a designated staffer, Joanna McCall, who has been trained to run these economic impact models. So if you ever have an idea for an infrastructure investment or potential investment, economic deal that you want to run, forecasts of how that might improve local economic conditions or have measure a potential ROI. That's a capacity that we have built. We were also, as I mentioned in the October meeting, awarded the competitive grant application for the brownfield redevelopment. It's very much aligned with the idea that we try to find sites that are underutilized, that already have infrastructure for job expansion, instead of always converting greenfield. That requires a lot of new infrastructure. And then finally, one of the biggest challenges identified in the SEDS document is the struggle that we have to keep up with capacity of our transportation system. And there have been significant accomplishments. We need a lot more here, but the passage of the Tennessee Transportation Modernization Act, which infused an additional $3.3 billion of one-time money into TDOT. Many of you around this table helped advocate for that legislation. Mayor O'Connell's recent victory at the ballot box on November 5th through his proposal, the Choose How You Move proposal to invest significantly in transit, sidewalks and signals to improve safety and mobility across Davidson County, which is really a major step in the modernization of our regional transportation system. And then finally, TDOT, GNRC, and local agencies have been really successful over the last couple of years with the infusion of the federal grants into infrastructure building in the wake of the pandemic and our economic recovery efforts. We've been successful in pulling down additional discretionary grants to invest into transportation beyond those formula funds that we get each year. So a few accomplishments that we wanted to share that we've achieved together as we move to implement the SEDS. And I'll wrap up here by saying that we have prepared Resolution GNRC 2025, that's an odd way to say it, 2025-03, that would adopt the annual update to the SEDS and essentially authorize me to get it submitted to the Department of Commerce. We want to ask, unless we've achieved quorum, since I saw somebody coming in.
One left.
Thank you, Mayor Hutto.
Trying to get Johnny Cash going.
There's 19 people.
So we want to ask you to adopt this resolution this morning, but a show of support from this group would help us communicate to the EDA that, the work is practically done.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. Any questions for Michael regarding the SEDS? Mayor O'Connell.
Michael, I know we're not adopting today. Can you talk a little bit about RLF access and utilization so far?
I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy, I'll talk about it briefly here today, and then we can schedule as we begin to launch these programs again. Maybe schedule that as an agenda item at our next meeting, because it is a really important resource that I think a lot of people don't fully, they don't have enough information to be able to think about this on a day-to-day basis. But it's essentially gap financing. It's our own capital mixed with EDA funds that we, it's typically targeted private sector entities, but public sector agencies are also available. I mean, the issue is there is that typically access to financing isn't overly difficult for a public entity. The typical, I think the max right now in our plan is $500,000. So again, it's not intended to finance an entire deal for the most part, but to help with maybe the last mile to get a deal done. It's also focused on job creation and retention in low-income communities amongst businesses that would employ traditionally underserved populations. So there is a social objective here to make sure we're lifting people out of poverty and we're creating jobs in struggling economies across the region. but is a really good resource for those who go to the bank, get declined for a loan. Part of the effort here is to make sure banks are aware that there's a partnership available to them to make a deal work. But it's also, many of you around the table are knowledgeable of what your business community is trying to achieve in your communities. And if you can be thoughtful about making referrals to us, we could always do a quick assessment of eligibility. But we'll bring to you a presentation at the next meeting. We do have online a fact sheet that you can download. I believe that is at gnrc.org/lending.
BCD page 2, BCD.
ECD, it's gnrc.org/ECD, a fact sheet that could probably do a better job of communicating what you need to know about the program. Okay, Mr. Chair.
Okay, other questions for Michael? All right, even though we aren't taking an official vote, we will entertain a motion, and I'm going to go to the Smyrna mayor for the day, Eileen Hardo, and ask you to give us a motion to express the sense of the board that we approve this resolution.
I make a motion.
All right, we've got a motion. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Mayor O'Connell. All right, any more comment or question? We're expressing the sense of the board to support the SEDS. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. We will now move on to the chair's report. I want to come to Mayor Ryle and say thank you for emceeing the partner reception on Monday afternoon, and ask for your impression of that reception. Good, bad, indifferent?
I did a fantastic job.
Oh,
No, I'm more than proud to fill in for you.
Thank you.
Sorry you missed it. It was a great evening, and I can't say enough. I've already talked to Michael and staff about what a fantastic evening it was. It's different than what we've done in the past, but it was a great time. It's a good time for all of us just to get together and be social and hear a little bit of business. So I appreciate the work that was done on that. I know it's not easy to put on a performance like that, but it's a great evening. So thank you. And I appreciate so many of y'all being able to show up. It's kind of an odd evening and time, but we had a great crowd there, and especially with all the staff there. It was a really nice evening.
Thank you for that, Michelle, to you and your team for putting it together and executing it. Thank you for that.
It was Mayor Brown's suggestion to do something different, so she gets credit.
Right. That's what we did, something different. Thank you. And also want to just say thank you to the staff for the work you do every day. You're making a difference. So yes. And Michael's got a note here. Anything else on my mind I want to share? I got a lot on my mind and I ain't sharing it though. To the director's report.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you, Bob, for being with us and emceeing the event. A couple of images from the night of celebration. Just a really amazing time. One of the more significant things we did that evening was honor for 3 individuals and 1 organization with their annual awards for the evening. One of those awards was the Legislator of the Year award that went to Representative Sam Whitson for everything he has done to support our Middle Tennessee legislative agenda. Sometimes proactively and sometimes in defense of legislation that may otherwise not be the most beneficial for our local communities. And so he was with us and I think had a really fantastic time networking with folks. And we are sad to see him leave the Tennessee General Assembly, but hopefully he has inspired, sort of a renewed push for bipartisanship and working across the aisle to make sure that we're addressing the needs of our communities. Another award that we gave out was to Commissioner Brad Turner of the Tennessee Department of Disability and Aging for his efforts to establish that department. That's a new department, one of the first departments of state government to be created. And how long, Candy? Long time, right?
Longer than I recall, but yeah, it had been years since we'd added a department level.
And Candy and our aging director, Sarah Fowler, worked on the legislation with the governor's office and with the Tennessee Commission on Aging Disability and with Brad Turner at the Department of Development and Intellectual Disabilities. Those 2 departments essentially were merged to form this new department to align the state's resources to serve these populations in a more efficient way. And efficiency was important, but I think it was important because there's a lot of intent to begin to expand our capacity to serve an aging population. And before you start expanding anything, you need to make sure it works in the first place. So it was a really good step by the state in terms of public policy to do that. And Commissioner Turner has just been sort of a selfless leader, making sure that that was enacted in a really fruitful way. So we wanted to honor him for that work. We also recognized Williamson Inc., Cal McDowell, works at that fine organization headed up by Matt Largent as the CEO and Luis, many of you know, as the board chair, and wanted to recognize them for the work that they do to convene local governments across the county with the business community for cooperative, just cooperation on how to grow the community and how to reinvest, make the county have a higher quality of life. We really admire the partnership that the chamber has with the elected officials, namely Mayor Anderson and Mayor Moore and Mayor Anderson, both Mayor Andersons, and all the fantastic elected officials and the leadership that you demonstrate through your action. The Williamson Forward trip to Salt Lake City this year, and then I think last year to Scottsdale, Arizona, or the year before that, just to show people what other communities are doing, give us an opportunity to say, we like that, we don't like that, but it's another community in the country that's similar to ours that's trying to address similar challenges. So there's a lot of investment by the staff at Williamson Inc. and a lot of buy-in by the board, and a lot of willingness by the elected officials to be part of that process. So we wanted to recognize you all for that. And then the last award that we gave out on the evening, which was Mayor O'Connell's birthday. So happy birthday. But we wanted to recognize him for his leadership on the Choose How You Move initiative, which is something that really is an implementation activity for the things that you've all been working on together for the last 20 years to try to improve transportation. And so I really appreciate not only his leadership to get it to the ballot so that the voters could decide for themselves if they wanted to pay more to improve transportation, but his approach to making sure he wasn't coming up with some new plan that nobody had ever heard of. I mean, he sourced the proposed investments from the plans that y'all have created together. He understood the importance of investing in Davidson County in a way that supported flows across jurisdictional boundaries. And more than the victory, it was that we wanted to recognize. And I really appreciate, I know you were stuck in an airplane, hopefully eating cake.
Coming from a conference focused on implementation. So at least I was doing relevant work.
But Vice Mayor Henderson, who serves on our Transportation Policy Board with many of you, was there and said some really kind things about you and your office and her collaboration with the folks around this table. So I wanted to just give a shout out to the award winners and Mayor, since you didn't get to do an acceptance speech, see if you had anything to offer. Since you put me on the spot for the RLF, I'll put you on the spot.
No, for me, I think it is, I can't say much more than Michael has already said. Our entire goal here, we knew one of the key lessons learned from the 2018 exercise with referendum attempt was that it was insufficiently regional in its outlook. And so we wanted to be intentional about that and successful in that. And we appreciate the feedback that we have gotten from so many people around this table or who are often around this table. And it is our full intention and implementation that we support the success of the Middle Tennessee region and the Greater Nashville Regional Council's support along the way, bolstered by RTA as well. I know from, now more than 15 years ago, looking at the Mayor's Caucus and some great foundational leaders who were a part of that kickoff effort and setting up the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee. It has been a journey of more than a decade, and it's great to have this many Nashvillians who are also Middle Tennesseans come together to celebrate this. And I'm also personally appreciative of the Vice Mayor for being somebody who also is active and interested in the process of GNRC. So thank you.
The other highlight of the evening from a business standpoint was the release of our annual report, which is available online. We had hoped to have printed copies for you this morning, but you will see them at your next meeting. But it is available digitally at that QR code, but also our active annual report is always available at gnrc.org/annual report. We hope you enjoy that. It is a showcase of the work that you do together. So we hope you see yourself in that document more than once, but it highlights just the tremendous accomplishments of regional collaboration and the work of our staff, which is 80+ strong professionals that work on the other side of this building that are out in your communities every single day. So it really goes through and identifies the specific accomplishments in a very measurable way that could be useful to you as you try to tell the story back home with your local legislative body, who sometimes wonder why you drive into Nashville every third Wednesday of the month. So want to make sure that is not only a document that celebrates our work together, but is a resource to you to get increased buy-in to the work that we do regionally. Finally, as I wrap up here, just a couple of additional updates to share with you. Wanted to make sure you are all aware that we have hired Daniel McDonald, who I think is in the room sitting behind me. He was served as multimodal manager for TDOT for a few years and just really did a tremendous job building capacity within the department to implement improvements across the state of Tennessee, much in the way that we're trying to do through our new Department of Transportation Infrastructure. And he's a fantastic person to lead that staff and oversee the expansion of activities that we have planned for that, which are fully focused on implementing the recommendations from the project delivery task force that Mayor Reed chaired for about 18 months there. Also, many of you know Amy Napoli, but she was recently promoted to serve as our Director of Economic and Community Development Department. That staff is they're either in Sumner County or Montgomery County today, working on a CDBG grant project, or she would have otherwise presented the SEDS slides this morning, but wanted to make sure you all were aware of her promotion. She's been a fantastic partner to me and Michelle and our leadership team, and I can't wait to see her thrive in that new role. A couple of reminders here before we wrap up my report. The CDBG grant cycle for the traditional funds is currently open. There's some deadlines coming up in January that you need to be aware of if you're interested in applying. We will follow up this meeting with an email to point you to the resources that you need to make sure that you are entertaining this opportunity fully. And if you need assistance, that's what we're here for. If you need assistance applying for the grant or managing that grant, if you get it, Amy will be your contact for that. Solid waste annual progress reports will be due early in 2025. This is the time of year that we remind you that we also receive funding from TDEC to help you produce those. It's our goal to touch every single one of the APRs this year before they go to TDEC. So even if you develop it in-house or use another consultant versus using us, we want to make sure we're doing a final review on that and have an opportunity to help you make it as good as it could be before it gets to TDEC. It's really important that that data be of high quality. This is what we're using to do our master planning across the region to prepare for the potential closures of a few landfills. And finally, we're working to finalize the 2025 calendar for all of our boards and committees. The calendar for this group and the RTA are largely set. It's that pattern of the third Wednesday of the month. Couple of deviations to avoid holidays, but we'll get that out via email, and a comprehensive list of all of our boards and committees and their meeting dates so that is handy. And I think with that, Mr. Chair, that'll almost. So we just did want to preview two upcoming meetings. The January 15th Transportation Policy Board meeting for the Nashville area NPO. This is an important meeting because TDOT has asked regional mayors to amend the regional transportation plan to add the choice lanes project along I-24. They need your vote to be able to move forward on that project. It's a federal requirement. So there'll be discussions leading up to that date. There have been many discussions already to make sure everybody's comfortable with weighing in on January 15th. So that's the highlight there. We're also going to be talking about our call for projects. So if you're interested in federal funds to improve transportation in our community. We're going to be entertaining applications beginning in January, so we'll talk about that. And then the next convening of this body will be February 19th here in this room. We'll give you updates on some of the programs that we've talked about recently, including maybe circling back around to our regional planning for older Middle Tennesseans. Also have the 2026 dues estimates for you at that time. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll conclude my report unless, Michelle, do you have anything to add? All right.
We have one item under other business. Check presentation for the Brownfield Redevelopment Area Grant by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation.
So we have representatives here. Tara, good to see you. As I mentioned, in October, we received $220,000 from TDEP to work with you all locally. And they're going to be presenting us the multiple.
Broken up into 10 checks to recognize each community that will be receiving
And
the
we
investigation.
have a place in the lobby for photographs. And so we'd love, if it's possible with your schedule, for you to stick around and take some photographs with our chair and TDEC.
Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Anybody have any questions whether you're going to get a check? Okay. Any other business to come before the board? Mayor Hutto, like the beard?
I just want to say to the assistant mayor, this was Mayor Reed today, when y'all lay down for a nap after lunch, other mayors don't do that, so.
No, they just golf all the time, all the time.
Any other official business to come?
That's a dangerous thing to try to zing Mayor Reed.
I know.